Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company of the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Loaded show today. We've got a new, I'm not going to say bombshell story because we don't know if it's true or not, but we've got a new report from our favorite place, the Daily Mail. That's right, on Dianna Russini. We'll get to that. Plus, there's a big trade that I think we all know is going to happen between the Patriots and the Eagles, but it seems like the Eagles might be asking for a little bit more now. We'll get to that. Plus, CJ Stroud reportedly may not get a contract. We'll get to that. And I am going to lose my shit over something that happened last night. First, though, I do want to start with telling you about our presenting sponsor. You know how much I love Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. You know they take great care of my home. They can do the exact same for you. Hiller has been family-owned and operated since 1990, and they've got the guarantee of happy you'll be or the service is free. What does that mean? That means if they perform work and the customer doesn't like it, they will figure out how to make it right. That's who they are. That's what they do. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Again, they take great care of my home. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That is Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Okay, without further ado, we're going to get to our lead story here today on the program. Oh, and by the way, like and subscribe and tell all your friends to like and subscribe as well. We are at, I think, 47, like 98. And so we want to be at 4,800. We want to be at 5,000 sooner rather than later. So like and subscribe and tell your friends. Okay. The Daily Mail. Boy, I'm starting to like these guys. Now that I'm a paid subscriber to the Daily Mail Plus online. So the Daily Mail says that Dianna Russini is ready to talk. According to the publication, Dianna, quote, the Daily Mail can reveal that Russini is ready to talk. A source close to the ex-ESPN sideline star explains, quote, Dianna is ready to talk, and everyone from Good Morning America to 60 Minutes is clamoring to get her to do a sit-down. But she doesn't want to do it to bash Mike. She wants to do it so she can potentially reclaim her story and reclaim the potential to get her career back on track. All right, let's start there. Let's analyze this for a second. What the fuck does that mean? What does it actually mean? Reclaim the potential to get her career back on track. She was an NFL insider, a reporter who had an at least 6-year affair with one of her sources. Lied about it twice. You can sit down with the ghost of Walter Cronkite. You're not going to get your reputation back. It's really hard to come back from that. Like Tiger Woods has never fully come back from what he went through. But you think Dianna Russini is going to do that? The Daily Mail continues. The insider goes on to reveal that Russini has been wrangling over the decision for weeks. Well, duh. All while more rumors and speculation continue to spread far and wide. She, in reference to Dianna, the insider says, she is making difficult decisions on talking or not, but she is leaning towards talking. She has to get to a better place. She doesn't want to exploit her family any more negatively. If it's done, it has to be done right. That is where things stand right now. So again, Dianna Russini, according to the Daily Mail, apparently has overtures from everybody to do a sit-down interview. 60 Minutes, Good Morning America, CNN, Fox News, whomever. You know who I bet isn't clamoring to get Dianna on their show? ESPN. I kid. Well, I mean, I'm being serious, but, we're not doing it. So Dianna wants to make sure that she does this right, that she reclaims her story, and she doesn't hurt Mike Vrabel. How is she supposed to do that in a way that is not an outright lie like the girls' trip? Again, when somebody says, I am going to set the record straight, what that usually means is I'm going to point the finger at somebody else. She tried that in her resignation letter from The Athletic. She tried to point the finger at the big bad media. They've made this a story. It's not a story. And then we saw pictures of her and Vrabel in the bar kissing from 2020. So she wants to do an interview. She wants it to be done right. She wants to reclaim her story and her career path. She doesn't want to hurt Vrabel. And again, it can't be an outright lie because she's already done that twice. And if she lies a third time, that's it. How do you do that? I swear to God, I don't, how do you, somebody help me out. How do you do that? The only way she becomes the good guy in this is if she makes Mike Vrabel the bad guy. That's it. She can't make the media the bad guy. She tried that. She can't make the tabloids the bad guy. She tried that. Remember, according to the ESPN story, she said, the New York Post is coming after me because I'm a woman, played that card, and because this is the New York Post that's going after the New York Times. So she played the tabloid card. Didn't work. She played the this is out of context, you don't understand card when she said it was a girls' trip. Then again, we are all still just awaiting with bated breath for evidence to say that this was in fact a girls' trip. She played the big bad media card when she tendered her resignation from The Athletic defiantly, saying that she wasn't going to give any more oxygen to this story. So the only card left for her to play is the Vrabel card. That's it. So she, as the Daily Mail has reported, genuinely loves Mike Vrabel. And as the Daily Mail reported today, she doesn't want to trash Vrabel. How do you do that without trashing Vrabel? I mean, if she goes on 60 Minutes and she's sitting down with Leslie Stahl, you don't think she's going to ask? This is not that interview that Ramon Foster did with Rand Carthon when he got fired. 60 Minutes is real journalism. Good Morning America. You think Robin Roberts is going to sit there with you and say, oh, Dianna, you poor thing. You were having a 6-year affair, and we say 6 years like we know it started in 2020. We don't know that. That's just the earliest that we knew that it existed. So if I was sitting down with Dianna, if a real journalist sits down with Dianna, they're going to ask Dianna, how long has this been going on for? Is it a 6-year affair? Is it an 8-year affair? Is it a 9-year affair? How long has it been going on for? That's what a real journalist is going to ask. What did Mike Vrabel say when you guys started doing it and he had a wife, which you obviously knew about? What did he say? And if Dianna wants to make Vrabel look like the bad guy, she would say something along the lines of, well, he told me for years he was going to leave her, and now that's a big story. But if she wants to set the record straight, I don't know how you do that without trashing Vrabel. Nobody believes you that this was the New York Post's fault. Nobody believes you that it's a sexist attack against a woman insider. Nobody believes you that it was the big bad media that ruined your career. You did it. You lied about the girls' trip. You lied in your resignation letter. So how does she do that? And then there's the Patriots in this. Apparently the Patriots know this may be coming. Again, according to the Daily Mail. Would they have rather the story go away? Absolutely. But they aren't going to pressure her not to do it. It is her life. She can do whatever she wants with it. If it happens, the Daily Mail reports, it is something they will deal with at the time, but they are focusing on the team instead. They can't obsess over it because everything that is out is already out. Stop there. Everything that is out is already out, according to the Daily Mail. Again, I want to take just a second here, collect our thoughts. So according to the Daily Mail, the insider that says the Patriots are totally cool with Dianna Russini doing a sit-down with Good Morning America or with 60 Minutes or the Today Show or whomever, they say everything about this story is already out. Again, the quote, everything that is out is already out. Do you believe that? Do you believe that everything that is out there about this story is already out? That there's nothing else that the New York Post, Page 6, the Daily Mail, that they have in the reserves? The same way they had those 2020 photos in the reserves. Everything that is to happen in this story has already come out. Has it? Vrabel would know. Russini would know. But I'd be very careful saying that. It continues as far as the Patriots are concerned, and this is just so Patriots. The franchise has dealt with so many other controversies, and they will weather through this no matter if she talks or not. Oh, yeah. Hey, they've been through Spygate and Deflategate and Aaron Hernandez and the Orchids of Asia and everything else. I mean, what is this? This is just a sex scandal. I mean, come on. It's like James Carville. He's done it all. So, when it comes to the Vrabel Dianna story, that's what the Daily Mail is reporting. They are reporting that Dianna is ready to talk. They are reporting that everybody wants her, whether it's Good Morning America or 60 Minutes. They want her. They are reporting that she wants to reclaim her career path, but she doesn't want to throw Vrabel under the bus. Again, I'm not sure how you do that. And they are reporting that the Patriots understand it. They're not going to try to stop her, and they'll just weather this storm like they've weathered every other controversy. Bullshit. Now, I'm not saying bullshit to the Daily Mail. I'm saying bullshit to that reality. I'm not claiming the Daily Mail is lying because I don't know the Daily Mail like that, and they've been all over this story. As we have noted, it feels like ESPN is pretending that it's too good for. But it doesn't make sense for me for Dianna Russini to tell all. I did a Google search this morning. Monica Lewinsky made $2.8 million off her scandal in 1998. Apparently, there was a $1 million interview she did with Barbara Walters, plus a $1 million book deal, plus, or I think $1.5 million book deal, plus she signed $1 million contract with J.C. Penney, but then ended up, or maybe Jenny Craig, I can't, one of the two, and she only got $300,000 of that. So the total was $2.8 million, which adjusted for inflation today would be $5.75 million. That's how much money Monica Lewinsky got out of her scandal. Is Dianna Russini going to be able to top Monica Lewinsky? This is Monica Lewinsky. She was sleeping with the president of the United States, and she got $2.8 million for telling her story. Again, in today's dollars, $5.75 million. But you know who can pay $5.75 million? You know who can pay more than $5.75 million? Robert Kraft. And this is where it just seems too simple. In the end, and I have no reporting, I'm not reporting this. This is just an opinion. In the end, I think that she is going to sign an NDA with the New England Patriots and Robert Kraft, and you'll never hear from Dianna Russini on this topic ever again. Because I think the money that Robert Kraft has or is willing to pay to make this story go away so that it doesn't get worse than it already is, far exceeds what she would be able to get from doing an interview on Good Morning America or 60 Minutes or Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper or whatever. Again, Monica Lewinsky got $2.8 million. That's it. Robert Kraft has a lot more money than that. Now, Robert Kraft is cheap, and he doesn't like to pay a lot. But to make it go away, I think Robert Kraft would easily pay north of $6 million to do that. Am I hoping that that's what happens? Absolutely not. I want the drama. I want the story. Hell, I don't even care if this thing goes to court. Fuck, I don't even care if this thing goes to court and it's me who's getting sued. I take that back. I do care if it's me getting sued. But I want hands on Bibles. I want text messages released. And you get that if that thing goes to trial. Now, I don't know what it would go to trial over, but you do get that if that thing goes to trial. And I want all the information. I want to know what happened. I'm a fucking gossip, and I'm not afraid to say it. I want to know. So do I want Dianna to sign an NDA with Robert Kraft? Absolutely not. But do I think that's what's going to happen? Yes. I absolutely think that is what's going to happen. Joe says, got to ask about all of it. The Washington stuff, the baby tweets, the comments about Vrabel's wife in the interview, all of it. A softball where she dodges all that will be worse. I kind of agree. If you're really trying to reclaim your career path, that's what you have to do. But I also know people love softball interviews. And I don't mean the people watching. I mean the people doing and the people being interviewed. Let me go do a softball interview. And people, for some reason, they're afraid to have the big questions too. And not only that, let's say she ends up getting a podcast deal. Let's say she ends up sitting down with Alex Cooper. Let's say she sits down with Oprah. Whatever it may be, to your point, all those questions have to be asked. If she takes Robert Kraft's money and signs an NDA, she doesn't have to answer any of that. So it's far easier to get the payday from Kraft than it would be to do an interview with a Good Morning America or something else. So I know Stugotz kind of tipped everybody off when he said it's Dianna's story to tell. He said, I've talked to Dianna. He said, I am not going to relay on the radio what Dianna said, but it is her story to tell, which a lot of people thought that meant that Stugotz was saying Dianna is going to tell her story. I didn't interpret it that way, but that's okay. Now the Daily Mail is saying she's ready to talk. And I just don't think she's ever going to talk on this because I think Robert Kraft's got too much money. And she says she doesn't want to hurt her family. How do you get your story out there with this story that doesn't hurt your family anymore or doesn't hurt Vrabel anymore? How do you do that? So, Mike and I first met in 2015. Mike and I went on our first date in 2019. Mike and I fucked in a broom closet inside the Titans facility in the wee hours of the morning after they beat the Ravens in the divisional round of the playoffs. And I'm just making all this up, but I'm just saying, like, this is what we fucked in the broom closet. He wore a condom. And, how do you do this? That the details of it doesn't hurt your family and doesn't hurt Mike. I don't understand. I don't understand how you, I don't get it. How could you do this? So I don't know what, like, I just don't see this happening. I am a realist. This is like when a team puts out a draft rumor that I hear, I'm like, they are not interested in that guy. They don't need another guard. Why would they take that guy? And then when they take the other guy, it's like, I knew it. When she signs that NDA, and I don't know if that'll become public information or not. And if I were her, or if I were advising her, I would say, wait until the divorce, if you get divorced, wait until that's over and then sign the NDA with Robert Kraft. Or hell, sign the NDA and then maybe that'll help the divorce just get over with and done with. But again, when it comes to Russini, I don't see how her talking and telling the truth, which she has yet to do, is going to help her at all. I think hushing and taking somebody else's money helps her. And I know, the Daily Mail says the Patriots have weathered scandals before. They have. But if they could have paid to get out of it, you don't think they would have? If they could have paid to get out of Spygate, instead of losing a first-round pick, instead of it becoming a national story, they would have done it. If Robert Kraft could have written a $5 million check on the spot to make Deflategate go away, so that Tom Brady didn't have all those cameras following him everywhere, all those people asking him questions, didn't have to have the Wells report in context. If they could have just written a $5 million check and just made it go away, of course he would have done that. Same with Aaron Hernandez. So when you say, we've been through other scandals before, we'll get through this, well, of course you'll get through this. You're one of 32 teams. Every NFL team gets through a scandal because they're not going to kill a franchise. But if you can just make it go away, that's what it's going to happen. So I'm just telling you, I don't think Dianna's going to talk. So that's the first part of this. The Dianna is ready to talk. And hold on a second. Sorry about that. Let me say this. Do you know where I heard that Dianna may be ready to talk? My dad this morning. I was talking to my dad. My dad goes, I saw a story that said that Dianna might be ready to talk. I'm like, excuse me? What? He's like, yeah. Dianna may be ready to talk. That's what my dad said. And I'm like, oh my God, the Daily Mail, they're back at it. So if it's getting to my dad, this is a story that's not going away. TDG wants to remind people this is all alleged, people. Agreed. Okay. The second thing, as far as Vrabel is concerned, A.J. Brown is still not a member of the New England Patriots. Now, that's not a panic for Eagle fans or for Patriot fans or anything else, because as much as you Eagle fans out there, when it came to the Vrabel-Russini scandal, want to yell, tampering! She's the one who's been reporting on all the A.J. Brown stuff, and she's been steering A.J. Brown to the Patriots. And guys, A.J. doesn't want to play in Philadelphia anymore. That has nothing to do with Dianna. I think it's because A.J. Brown, and I like A.J. Brown, and I think A.J. Brown likes me. But I think A.J. Brown is someone who's always got to be mad at somebody or always has to bitch about something. So when he got traded to the Eagles, he was mad at the Titans, and he took it out on the rest of the league. And so A.J. Brown, just reading the tea leaves, I don't think he likes Jalen Hurts, and I don't think he really respects Nick Sirianni. And that has nothing to do with whom Dianna Russini is fucking or not fucking. When it comes to the Patriots, I think A.J. wants to play for Vrabel. I think Vrabel wants A.J. Brown. I think Vrabel always wanted to add A.J. Brown. I thought this deal was going to happen before the draft. And people would say, well, they need to wait until June 1st because of the contract and the money and every time there's somebody who has a contract that you can't move, they always find a way to move it. Jared Goff got traded, and at the time, it was the most guaranteed money in the history of the NFL and the highest dead cap, and he still got traded. Russell Wilson was owed all that money in Denver, and they still cut his ass. So if you really want to do it, you can do it. And I figured that Philadelphia was going to do the deal before the draft, just so that they could say, we got a first rounder for AJ, even though this was a bad draft and the Patriots were picking 31st. Then in the lead up to the draft, we heard, well, it's going to have to wait until June 1st because of the cap. But I think it had to wait until June 1st because when it came to this draft, it was a bad draft and the Patriots are picking 31st. So I think the Eagles said, we'd rather have the 22nd pick in a better draft than the 31st pick in a bad draft. So I just expected after the draft was over that on June 2nd, they would make the trade for a 2027 first. Now, Adam Schefter's come out and he says he expects it to be a 2028 first, which would be kind of low for Howie Roseman to trade for a first 2 years out. And now it's starting to come out from the Philly sectors that the Eagles may not just want one first-round pick in 2028. Now it's starting to come out that the Philadelphia Eagles may want a 2027 second-round pick or a 2027 third-round pick in exchange along with the first-rounder for AJ. And I saw that and I said, oh, my God, Howie Roseman, you fucking guy. Howie Roseman. He's got Vrabel right where he wants him. And now Howie Roseman is trying to up the price. They are pushing New England for extra draft choices, and I think they're going to get them. Why? Because they know the Patriots are desperate, and they're desperate because of their own doing. They approached free agency thinking they were going to get A.J. Brown. They approached the draft thinking they were going to get A.J. Brown. And now they're dealing with a scandal in which their fans are following that, but their fans still think they're going to get A.J. Brown and compete for a Super Bowl. The Patriots know we have to start off 4-1 or at least 3-2, because if we start off 1-4, the Dianna Vrabel story is going to become an even bigger distraction. And Philly knows it. And Philly has the built-in excuse. I read it in the Philadelphia Inquirer today. When it came to just a first-round pick for AJ, the Philadelphia Inquirer said, can't do that. Jalen Waddle went for a first-round pick and a fourth-round pick, and A.J. Brown is better. Where do you think they heard that from? Howie Roseman. The reason they're going to ask for more is because they can. And before you tell me that the deal was probably already agreed to, so was the Ravens trade for Max Crosby. This is the NFL. All is fair until you sign. That's it. I've been watching a lot of The Sopranos lately, and I know a good extortion plot when I see one. This seems like something Tony Soprano and his guys would do. Vrabel is in a tough spot, but he's got a team that they think can compete for the Super Bowl. He's got a young quarterback who, again, I think is like a young version of Aaron Rodgers without the drama. He needs a number one receiver for him. That would be A.J. Brown. And Howie Roseman knows it. And this is what Howie Roseman does best. He takes advantage of dumb and desperate teams. And here's how he does it. See, Howie Roseman has incredible job security. The Eagles could go 3-14 next year, and Jeffrey Lurie, the owner, is not going to fire him. So Howie Roseman has incredible job security. And he's got one of the best owners, if not the best owner in the NFL. Howie also has a lot of experience. And he's made a ton of mistakes in his career that he's been able to learn from. Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson, Andre Dillard in the first round. He traded all those picks, moved up for Carson Wentz. He gave Carson Wentz an early extension before he had to, and then that blew up in his face. So what that means is this guy's got great job security, and he's got a ton of experience. Well, he's going up against guys that don't have the same job security he has, that don't have the same experience that he has. So he knows the game, and he knows he can take a swing, and it's okay to miss. He'll keep his job. He traded with John Robinson on A.J. Brown. Swing and a miss for John Robinson. Out the door. See ya. Go back to Carson Wentz. He traded a fortune to be able to get Carson Wentz. Gave him a huge deal. And after 2 years into that huge deal, Wentz had regressed. He had been benched. He wanted out. And Howie Roseman turned that into a first-round pick. He then took that pick and gave it to the Saints in exchange for a 23 first-rounder and a 24 second-rounder. That became Jalen Carter and Cooper DeJean. The Colts were desperate at quarterback. Phillip Rivers had retired. Andrew Luck had retired. They didn't have a quarterback. Frank Reich had a relationship with Carson Wentz. They were desperate. Make the trade. It's amazing how Howie Roseman takes advantage of people when they are down. That's what he does. He doesn't panic. He doesn't undersell. He doesn't anything. The year that they were without Carson Wentz, they rolled with Jalen Hurts because I think Howie Roseman knew we can go 7-9. If we go 7-9, we can go 7-9 with Jalen Hurts, and I'll still keep my job. And then he got the first out of the Colts. Took advantage of the Saints, took advantage of the Titans. So here's Vrabel. Everybody in New England thinks they're going to get A.J. Brown. Everybody in America thinks they're going to get A.J. Brown. Everything that the Patriots have done this offseason points to the fact that they have built their roster around having A.J. Brown at wide receiver. They cut Stephon Diggs. They didn't draft a receiver. And so right now, if they were to play a game, they would have Kayshon Boutte and Romeo Doubs at receiver. That's not good enough. They probably had a deal in place with the Eagles, but things have changed since then, have they not? Mike Vrabel is now facing a scandal. So he's dealing from a position of weakness. And when you are dealing from a position of weakness, that is when Howie Roseman pounces. The Saints were dealing from a position of weakness. They needed that extra first-round pick because they wanted Chris Olave, but they needed help on the offensive line. They gave away the picks that became Jalen Carter and Cooper DeJean. The Tennessee Titans were in a point of weakness. A.J. Brown wanted a new contract, and they didn't think they were going to be able to pay him. Howie Roseman took advantage. The Indianapolis Colts were in a spot of weakness. Howie Roseman took advantage of them. That's how he operates. If you don't think Mike Vrabel right now is operating out of the position of weakness, then either you don't own a television or the only channel you watch is ESPN, where, again, it feels like they're pretending this story doesn't exist. I mean, when they talked about it for the 18 seconds on day 3 of the draft, where Peter Schrager reported that Vrabel was in touch with everybody the whole time and later retracted it, Reese Davis tried to give context to it for about 18 seconds, and everybody on that set was like this. Okay. All right, back to the Kent State offensive guards, Reese. Thank you. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I see this, and I'm like, oh, my God. The Philadelphia Eagles, they are going to work over the Patriots, which is kind of how it all operates. So that's the second thing. I do have some thoughts that we will get to on C.J. Stroud's contract, but let's get to this Let's get to your reaction on the two stories. Again, the Daily Mail says Dianna Russini is ready to tell her story. And again, I think Howie Roseman is a working Mike Vrabel. And he is going to end up with, it wouldn't surprise me if it ends up being a 28 first, a 27 second, and a 28 third in exchange for AJ. Because at the end of the day, Howie Roseman, I think, is a firm believer that any deal is better than no deal. Let's get to your reaction here on the program. TDG says, Mike Vrabel is cooked if she starts talking. I just don't know how there's any way she could do an interview, not throw Vrabel under the bus, and come off with people's respect, looking respected in that interview. I don't understand how that can happen. Now, somebody texted me who knows the game and said, I think you are discounting her strong personality. Insiders are by nature chatty, overconfident, and she has been defiant that nothing happened. She will defend herself and her reputation, and she can find an interviewer who is also a friend and wanting to help her. She won't pick 60 minutes. You know what? I agree with that. She will not pick 60 minutes. The interviewer will have to take some shit for not pressing her on certain topics. She can come up with a story that in her own mind, it wasn't a conflict of interest anymore than the cozy but non-sexual relationships all insiders have with their sources. Again, there is no way. Now, I could see Dianna saying, okay, I am good on camera. I was at ESPN. I've got good relationships. I can do this. But surely Dianna has somebody in her life, one of these crisis management PR firms they hired, her agent, who's a big-time agent. Surely Dianna has somebody in her life who would say, Dianna, don't be a dumbass. There is no way that you can get your career back, not hurt your family, and not throw Vrabel under the bus. It doesn't exist. Unless you people and her are just way smarter than me and you guys have some sort of way to be able to get there. One person says, David says, great video. Must answer all questions about the last 6 years. I need us to understand something. I keep hearing that this is a 6-year relationship, Vrabel and Dianna. Somebody in one of the chats asked, how long have I had suspicions about this? Alan White Plains, who is a legendary caller to sports radio, called me on Sirius over the weekend. He asked how long I had had suspicions. My suspicions, they are time-stamped, go back to March 22nd of 2022. So I didn't have any inkling in 2019, 2020, 2021. I didn't have any inkling that that was going on. 2022, when she was on TV arguing with Bart Scott, defended Vrabel, threw the Titans roster under the bus, which means she was throwing Robinson under the bus. And she said something, and I now feel comfortable saying this. She said something because Corey Curtis was on the show last week, and he confirmed this for everybody. So I think I could tell this story. You guys may not remember this. After the Titans lost to the Ravens, the 2020 season in 2021, at the time COVID had hit, Channel 2 was doing something called Sports Extra Daily, where Corey and Kayla Anderson and Emily Proud would all do a show kind of like this for 30 minutes every day. And I don't know the context. I just saw the clip. But the clip that made its way on Twitter and went viral after they lost to the Ravens was Corey Curtis saying, I'm sick of Vrabel's arrogance. Remember, Mike Vrabel punted in the fourth quarter, one of the most scrutinized decisions, one of the biggest, as far as the surrender index is concerned, one of the most cowardly punts in the fourth quarter of that Ravens playoff game. And Corey went off about Vrabel's arrogance, not just about that, but about the whole season. And Corey got a call from Mike Vrabel. And Mike Vrabel basically said to Corey, kind of was ripping Corey's ass and said, look at what I've done with these bad rosters. So when Dianna Russini was on ESPN and said something almost verbatim that Corey Curtis had told me that Vrabel said to him. I knew who her source was. And I don't know why that day I just assumed they're doing it, but I did. But that doesn't mean that this is just a 2020 thing. That's just the earliest that we know about it. This could go back to 2018. This could go back to 2016. This could go back to, I believe Dianna Russini is the one who reported that Mike Vrabel was going to interview with Chip Kelly to be the defensive coordinator of the San Francisco 49ers, which got Vrabel promoted to defensive coordinator of the Texans, and Romeo Crennel was demoted for a year. I believe she reported that, and Vrabel was in Park City when he said Chip Kelly called him. So I don't know how far this goes back. We got to stop saying this is a 6-year relationship. It could be longer than that. We don't know. Michael says, I was going to say that. Pay her to shut up like a catch and kill strategy. I believe that Diana's not going to talk because I don't think there's enough money in talking, and I think there is money in shutting up. Joe says, is it worth $10 million to Robert Kraft? I don't know. I don't know how much it's worth to Robert Kraft. I still can't get over. You know, when Hutton came on the show on draft night, on day 2 of the draft, Hutton was like, Kraft is trying to kill the story. Because I was on their show earlier in the day, and I said, I just don't believe that. I believe that was a report from the gossip magazine In Touch that said that Kraft was trying to kill the story. And so everybody just believed that. And I didn't believe that because I just believe if Robert Kraft picked up the phone and called Rupert Murdoch, who owns the New York Post, and said to Rupert Murdoch, Rupert, don't run the story, Rupert wouldn't have run the story. Robert Kraft is the chair of the media committee for the NFL's broadcast partners. I mean, if Robert Kraft tells the NFL, give Fox nothing but Carolina Panther games, I think they'll do it. So I figured Kraft wasn't trying to kill it. And Hutton said on the show, he's like, yes, Kraft is trying to kill the story. So I'll just say, if Kraft is trying to kill it, I don't know how much money it's worth it to him, but I do think it's probably worth at least $5 or $6 million. And again, Monica Lewinsky. I mean, I know there are a lot of people that want to know Dianna Russini's side of the story. There are not more people in America today that want to know Dianna Russini's side of the story than wanted to know Monica Lewinsky's side of the story in 1998. Monica made $2.8 million. Adjusted for inflation, that's $575 today. I think that is worth $5.75 million to Robert Kraft to make this go away. Joe also says, the one thing about taking the payout is then she's basically done in public life. No one wants to hear from her if she's not talking about this, and she seems like someone who likes to flap her lips. Well, I like to flap my lips too. It would be an identity crisis, but it already is. She was a respected insider inside the league. Albert Breer, when this dropped, said, look, when it comes to the insider game, there's a group of us, and Diana's very much in that group. Well, she's never going to be in that group again. She's never going to work, I think, for a legitimate media outlet ever again. But does she know that it's over? Because if she can accept that it's over, then she can take the payout from Kraft and go away forever. And go do whatever you want with $5.75 million. But if she can't, then she wouldn't take the money. She'd try to host a podcast. And in the end, I think she'd make far less than $5.75 million. See, here's the thing that Dianna Russini is going to have to do one way or another. Dianna Russini, and this is why I would say take the money. And that's why my advice yesterday on the program was get the best deal. Dianna Russini is like a player who at some point in time used to be a Pro Bowler, used to be an All-Pro, signed a big contract, and now the league doesn't want you anymore. So now you have to go figure out what's next. You have to be humble enough to completely reinvent yourself. The league doesn't want you anymore. What are you going to do? Some guys go into the media. Some guys coach high school football. Some guys, this is where she is. But they're able to do it because for the most part, these guys made a lot of money and hopefully they save their money and then they can go do jobs like Derek Mason, who I used to work with at 102.5. He's reinvented himself. He's a talk show host. He's got plenty of money. That's what Dianna's going to have to do one way or another. And if that means that Dianna becomes a investment analyst, that's what it means. If it means she becomes an Uber driver, that's what it means. But she's going to have to accept that. One person says, if I was a reporter, if she sat down with me, I'm also asking about the past rumors with the Washington general manager. I do not think Dianna Russini is going to do a serious interview on, like the person who texted me said. I don't think she's doing 60 minutes. I don't think she's doing 60 minutes. I don't think she would do Good Morning America or Today. I don't think she's doing something serious. I think, like the person who texted me said, I think it's going to be kind of a softball that she ends up doing. One person says, it's difficult. It's a difficult thing to do, as the guys from inside the NBA demonstrated when they declined to riff on the boat pick. I did notice that. I'm like, come on, Chuck. Like, even if the NFL were to get mad at ESPN, if ESPN were to shrug their shoulders and say, it's Charles Barkley, the NFL would understand. It's Charles Barkley. That's the thing. That is one thing I don't have yet. At least I don't think I have it. I do feel like I had it locally in Nashville. But it's one thing that I think makes Charles Barkley, makes Mad Dog Russo, makes Howard Stern, is that they just say whatever the fuck they think. Now, unlike them, I don't have their money, so I can't just say whatever the fuck I think, get canceled and whatever. They can. Because the way Barkley probably looks at it is, I got a bunch of money, I'm making a bunch of money, and I've just said whatever I've wanted to say for years, and people seem to like it, and somebody else will pay me a bunch of money. Howard Stern's got so much money, they could cancel him tomorrow. First of all, if he started his own show, everybody would watch, but he's got so much money, it doesn't matter. So those guys have the what's called the id gaff muscle, the I don't give a fuck. They can say whatever they think. That's what I want to do. Ty says she can do it on Buck's show since he has a soft spot for her. Yeah, don't be bringing Buck into this. Buck, who said he believed her at the beginning of this. Buck. I love Buck. But I tried to listen that day that this all broke to as much local radio as I could to see who would touch this and who wouldn't. Of course, Joe Rexford wouldn't touch it. But I didn't really listen to Buck. And I'm like, nobody's talking about it locally. And Easton Freeze texted me. He was like, Buck spent his first 10 minutes talking about it. Because I got in the car that day. I put on Buck, and Buck was like, the callers could say whatever they want to say, but I'm not going to. So I'm like, oh, okay, Buck's not going to go there. So Easton was like, Buck talked about it for the first 10 minutes. And I went and I listened to it. And Buck was basically like, I don't want to say that Buck lied because I don't have proof that Buck lied. But when I was listening to Buck, I could feel the anxiety in his butthole as it was so tight, as he was like, I guess I have to believe him. It's like, buddy, it's okay to say, yep, that's my friend, and it ain't looking good. It ain't looking good. Okay. I do want to get to the CJ Stroud topic because this is absolutely fascinating to me. And there was a story at ESPN about CJ Stroud where the DJ BME or whatever, he covers the Texans for ESPN the way TD does. And there's a lot of talk about CJ Stroud, who is now contract eligible. What are the Texans going to do? And so Cal McNair has said, hey, we love CJ, but we'll let Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans figure that out. And those guys have been asked about C.J. Stroud, and they're like, C.J. Stroud is our franchise quarterback. We love C.J. Stroud. But as is the case with most things in life, if you really love somebody, your actions prove it, not your words. And so ESPN asked a bunch of league executives, should the Texans sign C.J. Stroud to a mega contract? You know, I call it the next man up contract, which is Brock Purdy, 2022 class, got paid last year. Now C.J. Stroud, 2023 class. Next year, it'll be the 24 class, which means Caleb Williams will get paid, Jaden Daniels will get paid, Drake May will get paid. Because the New England Patriots know Drake May's their guy. The Chicago Bears know Caleb's their guy. And the Washington Commanders know that Jaden Daniels is their guy. So C.J. Stroud is up for the next man up contract. And yet, the inconvenient truth for the Houston Texans is that C.J. Stroud was terrible last season. He was great as a rookie. He was average to below average his second year, and he was terrible last season for the Texans. Going into the playoffs, I picked Seattle and Houston as my two Super Bowl teams, and I told Corey Curtis at the Mike Borgonzi press conference, which was before the playoffs started, I said to Corey, I go, this is going to sound crazy, but I think this Texan team would be better off with Davis Mills as their starting quarterback than C.J. Stroud. The Texans were 3-0 last year with Davis Mills as their quarterback and that includes a win at home over Josh Allen on Thursday Night Football, because they could look at Davis Mills and they could say, Davis, we have an all-time defense. Don't screw the game up. But if you think a guy is a franchise quarterback, you can't say to that young franchise quarterback, hey, we want you to be Trent Dilfer. We want you to be a game manager. He'll take it personally. He won't listen to the coaches anymore. He'll want to trade. It'll be like Carson Wentz. Now, I don't know if C.J. Stroud's mature enough to handle that. I don't know. But that playoff game against Pittsburgh was an abomination. And they just happened to win it because the Pittsburgh offense was terrible and the Texan defense incredible. So then they go on the road to New England. Texan defense, incredible. But C.J. Stroud was abysmal. They asked all these questions after the game of DeMeco Ryans. Did you think about benching him? No. I saw that, and I'm like, they're going to go give him $300 million. They shouldn't, but they're going to. Now, the executives that ESPN talked to were all mixed. Some said, well, you know what? You better try to get out in front of it now, because tomorrow's price is going to be more expensive than today. So if you wait on it, then you'll have to pay what Drake May's making and then some, what Jaden Daniels ends up making and then some, what Caleb Williams is making and then some. One person told ESPN they need to sign C.J. Stroud because you don't want to be what Minnesota is. Dude, C.J. Stroud stinks right now. Here's what I would say to every team that doesn't know if their quarterback is a franchise guy. And I'm not saying doesn't want to believe it. I'm saying doesn't know. Even you, TDG, I think we can agree on this. Even you would agree with me when it comes to Cam Ward. We don't know Cam's the guy. You people hope Cam is going to be the guy. I don't think Cam's going to end up being the guy. I hope Cam's the guy too. I still think there's a chance Cam could be the guy, but I don't see it. But we don't know that yet. If you don't know you have the guy, then don't sign him. The NFL protects clubs. That's what the franchise tag is for. So C.J. Stroud's under contract this year. He's under contract next year. And then you can use the tag twice if you want to. And the old man used to tell me, don't make a decision before you have to. Because while it's easy to say, we want to believe in our quarterback and we want to get out in front of the market, two teams, I believe, gave in to young quarterbacks that hadn't earned it. The Miami Dolphins and the Arizona Cardinals. And I believe that when it comes to Miami and Arizona, they had decent enough teams and not good enough quarterbacks. Well, we wanted to get out in front of it, so we gave Tua a gazillion dollars, and you're paying Tua a gazillion dollars right now to play for the Atlanta Falcons. The Tennessee Titans were in a similar spot. Marcus Mariota showed some good things his first year, had a very good year in year 2, had a down year in year 3. So what do? You pick up the fifth-year option. Gets hurt in year 4, goes into that last year, fifth-year option. He stinks. To the bench you go, Ryan Tannehill, you're in. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did the same thing. They were not sure if Jameis Winston was their guy. After 2020, they had the ability to get Tom Brady. They took it. They won a Super Bowl. So, when it comes to C.J. Stroud, he, in my opinion, cost them an AFC championship because they would have gone to Denver and they would have won. If they had played run, punt football with that defense, I think they would have had a shot at winning the Super Bowl because that defense is so good that they in Seattle, it would have been a heavyweight fight of great defenses. And now it's on Sam Darnold to beat the best defense in the league, which is a lot easier than Sam Darnold playing run, punt football the way Seattle did in the Super Bowl. That Texan defense, I mean, I lived through Ray Lewis and the Ravens coming into Nissan Stadium and beating the Titans and ending the best team and season the Titans ever had. I lived it. That Texan defense, every bit as dirty as that Ravens defense. The Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware Denver Bronco defense that beat Cam Newton in the Super Bowl. Peyton was not Peyton Manning when they won that Super Bowl. He was a game manager. That Texan defense was that good. Do not pay C.J. Stroud. And this is where you have to have a grown-up conversation with him and David Mulligetta. And I don't know David Mulligetta. I think he's obviously got a great reputation as being a great agent. But I also think David Mulligetta understands the game. So when it comes to his client, George Pickens, and Dallas wants him to play on the tag, you have to have the grown-up conversation with the agent to which you say, look, George Pickens is kind of a loose cannon. So because he's a loose cannon, we want to go year to year. David, we like CJ. He's regressed the last 2 years. We just want to get him back on track, and then we'll pay him, and we'll pay him the market. But we got to see it. And that's an adult conversation you have to have. And C.J. Stroud has to be willing to accept that reality because he was that bad. He really was that bad. Who saw the draft lottery last night? I saw the draft lottery. The NHL draft lottery. Look, I know the Predators had a 3.5% chance to win. And I know Vancouver was expected to win and they didn't win. They didn't get first or second. But I watched a draft lottery last year where the Predators had the third worst records and the third best odds at landing the number 1 pick. And they ended up picking 5th because New York, with a 3.5% chance, was able to win the rights to draft Matthew Schaefer. And then this year, Toronto had to finish with inside the top 5 in order to maintain their pick, or else their pick would have gone to Boston. So Toronto needs the luck of the ping pong ball just to be able to keep their pick. And I'm watching the draft lottery last night, and it looked like after 2 balls, the Predators kind of had a shot. But again, I knew it was a long shot. I wasn't expecting the Predators to win. And then when the final ball popped up and they said, the Toronto Maple Leafs have won the draft lottery, I sat there in my living room and I just said, you got to be fucking shitting me. Here is the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs are the premier franchise in the NHL. They are. Now, they're not the best franchise. They're not like a very well-respected franchise, but they're the premier franchise. Their tickets cost the most. They have the most media. It's Toronto. It's hockey. You get the deal. Austin Matthews said yesterday, he's not sure he wants to come back. What does that mean? When a star player in the NBA or the NHL says, I don't want to come back. What happens is he's not coming back. Giannis is not going back to Milwaukee, and Austin Matthews is not going back to Toronto. And Toronto just happens to get the number 1 pick. The Leafs are facing a full-blown rebuild. The problem is they don't really have any young players, and they don't have a lot of draft picks because they've been trading them with that core group trying to win. Tavares is going to age out. Matthews wants to leave. Marner's already gone. They're going to blow the team up. And here is the number 1 pick. And I tweeted this out. I said, is it just me? Or does it feel like every time there's a generational player at the top of the draft, it's Toronto, New York, Chicago, the large markets with big fan bases that end up getting those players? And I put that out there yesterday as people were tweeting me, Edmonton won in 2015. Okay, that was 11 years ago. Secondly, Edmonton was a shithole of a franchise. They were moving into a new stadium. You know what helps a new stadium? Ticket sales. Now, last year, when, again, New York was able to win the draft lottery, people said, oh, it's rigged. The Predators got screwed. And I said, okay, hold on. Hold on. We saw the ping pong balls on TV. I don't think it's rigged. When New York got it after the bubble series in 2020 and they got Lafreniere, who they thought was going to be good and really isn't that good, I did think that might have been rigged. They put the ping pong balls on TV. They have the one guy watching the clock who won't turn his back. Bettman's there. Bill Daly's there. Guys writing numbers down are there. I don't give a shit. I went to Lance Barton in Las Vegas. I've seen him look me right in the eye and poof, disappear something. I think it's rigged. Yesterday for me was the moment where I'm like, it's rigged. Toronto, they're going to lose their star player, their captain. He doesn't want to be there anymore. Hockey, by the way, the ratings are through the roof in America for the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. A lot of people think that has to do with the Olympics. Who's Team USA's captain? Austin Matthews. I do think it will benefit the league to have Austin Matthews playing in an American market. So Austin Matthews gets traded from the Leafs to an American team, and the Leafs are going to get a haul for Matthews, and they've got Gavin McKenna to rebuild their team. Because the NHL doesn't want the Leafs to stink forever. I think it's crooked. I think it's crooked. And Bill Haslam could call my phone right now and say, Jared, trust me, it's not crooked. I think it's crooked. I do. Last night for me was the straw that broke the camel's back. New York last year, Toronto this year. And people were like, well, San Jose won the lottery a couple of years ago with Macklin Celebrini. Right, but people didn't think Macklin Celebrini was as good as Connor Bedard or as good as Matthew Schaefer. I mean, this was, I felt like this was bullcrap. George does ask a question I was wondering too. He said, why was Barry Trotz on the Predators live stream for the draft? He said he was retiring over 3 months ago. So at the beginning of the draft lottery last night, they flashed all the people up there on the screen. Here are all the general managers who are wanting to see if they get the number 1 pick. And there was Barry Trotz. And I'm like, why Barry Trotz? Barry Trotz is done. I know he's technically the general manager until they hire a new one, but that's over. They should have had Nick Saban up there. That's, if I was the Predators in the NHL, I would have said, let's put Saban on TV. And then that way we can make a big deal about Saban. And Saban is kind of hiring the general manager of the Predators. But I think the draft lottery is rigged. I know Joe Retro tweeted me yesterday how stupid I was for thinking that. I don't care. I think the draft lottery is rigged. Just a couple of sad stories to get to. Ted Turner. Today, I was stunned when I saw the news that Ted Turner passed away. Former owner of the Braves, the Atlanta Hawks. He was Atlanta through and through. He wanted to build stuff in downtown Atlanta. CNN, TBS, TNT. Ted Turner. I never met Ted Turner. Ted Turner never knew who I was. At least I don't think he did. Ted Turner had a profound impact on my childhood because every day at 6:05 or 6:35, I watched the Atlanta Braves on TBS. And those Braves teams I grew up watching in the 90s were freaking loaded. And Ted Turner paid for that. He paid for Greg Maddux. He paid for them to trade for Fred McGriff. He paid for Terry Pendleton. He paid to bring in John Sherholtz to be the general manager. He paid to bring back Bobby Cox. Ted Turner was the one who hired Bobby Cox to be the manager, fired Bobby Cox as the manager. Bobby goes to Toronto, gets to the ALCS. Ted wants to hire Bobby back, but he can't hire him back as manager, hires him as general manager. Bobby Cox ends up drafting Chipper Jones, trades for John Smoltz, goes to Ted Turner, wants to go back to the dugout. So he does. John Sherholtz comes in, 14 straight division titles. And I watched pretty much every single night. That was such a big part of my childhood, and I think it was a big part of thousands, if not millions of people's childhoods in the 90s across America. So with that, a huge legend in sports, in the American media, a true tycoon, Ted Turner passed away. There's another one that as we popped on the show, I got a text message from a friend. And I'm going to hold off because I want the family to be able to say this, but one of the most influential people in my life passed away today. And it was somebody who I knew was going to pass away. I talked to last week. We had a great chat. And when that becomes public, I'll have a little something to say there. But a tough way to end the show. The passing of Ted Turner. And, hopefully the Braves will make him proud this year the way the Braves made Phil Niekro and Hank Aaron proud after they passed away by winning the World Series. That's it for us. Be sure to like and subscribe. Be sure to rate 5 stars wherever you get your podcasts here on Stillman and Company. We'll see you all tomorrow live at